Okay, so from a high, overview, can you give us a survey of what an estate plan entails? Tell us what are the components.
Yeah, so there's what I like to tell people. There's three basic ways you can plan your estate. You can do nothing, which I don't recommend. But the plus side there is it's free. You can use a will as the basis of your estate plan, and you can use a trust as the basis of your estate plan. And it doesn't really matter if you're, dirt poor or if you're Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or someone like that. Those are the three basic options. Now, obviously, the more wealth you have, the more complicated it's going to be. But at the end of the day, it's do nothing, have a will, or have a trust. And depending on which route you go, whether it's will or trust, that's going to drive the number, like the number of documents. But ultimately, the primary documents you need in an estate plan: a will, durable power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, and then the living will, which is the end of life. They often call it an advance directive. What happens when you're at the end of your life and life support type decisions.
Welcome to the Lawyer Millionaire, where we explore the intersection of law and wealth, ensuring you are as skilled in building your financial empire as you are in winning cases. Today, we're exploring how you can fortify your financial legacy and secure generational wealth. Great topics. And that's right, we're talking about estate planning. And we're talking about estate planning with the one and only Bobby Sawyer, whose individual expertise lies right there in that arena. With a career dedicated to guiding individuals through the intricate dance of safeguarding assets and crafting enduring legacies, Bobby's insights are invaluable to anyone looking not just to build wealth, but also to preserve it for generations to come. Bobby, it's great to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate it, Darren. Thank you.
All right. So, estate planning. I don't think we've delved into this topic yet on this show. So, I'm excited to do this with you today. First of all, why don't you share with us a little bit about why and maybe how you ventured into the world of estate planning to begin with?
Yeah, absolutely. Straight out of law school, I was doing insurance defense. So, personal injury litigation, construction defect litigation, and frankly, didn't enjoy it. I don't like being in the courtroom. Actually, what I found out is like I don't like being told I'm wrong, and that tends to happen a lot when you're in the courtroom. And so, on top of that, the clients just didn't want to be there. They were upset that they were being sued. They oftentimes didn't think they should be sued, and so it just wasn't really a fun experience.
Mm.
It wasn't enjoyable. I did, almost dreading going into work, and so I started looking for other areas of law to get into, and came across estate planning. And really, after doing some CLE, researching it, discover and actually doing some estate plans, discovered that it's a much better client experience, overall experience. Number one, the client wants to be there,
Mm.
and then oftentimes in litigation, the the end result is the lawyers are the only one that end up coming up on top. A lot of times it settles, and so the plaintiffs settle for less than they want to settle for, and the defendants don't make as much money. Whereas with estate planning, clients walk away with peace of mind. They're happy, they're satisfied, they have a sense of accomplishment, and that's on both sides, not only for the client but for myself as well. Truly helping people plan their estates, get peace of mind, so that they know when the inevitable happens, their legacy, what they've spent their life building, will be protected, and assets will go to who they want, when they want, in the most efficient way possible.
Yeah, yeah. Different vibe. That's cool.
Yeah, it's completely different vibe, completely different. I mean, it's not they don't make television shows about estate planning. It's not the lawyers, law and order, and all that other stuff, but it's a much better work-life balance. I can guarantee you that.
All right. All right. Well, fast forwarding to today, tell us about your current role and how you now bring value to clients looking to protect and grow their wealth.
Yeah, so today, what I focus on, like you said, is estate planning. And we've developed this new concept called Forever Estate Plan. And what that does, the biggest value proposition for the client there is they come to us, we do their estate plan, whether that's a will, a trust, and then the other documents, durable power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, a few other documents there. And they're more or less good for the rest of their life. And we accomplish that by providing annual updates at no additional charge.
Mm.
There's a couple exceptions to that. If they want to do tax planning, if all of a sudden they have a taxable estate, that's not included. If the law changes and that necessitates some sort of change in their documents, that's not included. And there's a couple other things that are exceptions to the forever estate plan. So I say, what I tell when I talk to clients about it, I said, we're lawyers, so there's always a catch. That we were always trying to find some way to sneak something in there. But really, even if a client comes or a married couple comes in, does their estate plan, and then later on gets divorced, we'll redo their estate plan at no additional charge. And so it really is any sort of life event is we try to account for in the future, because people's lives change. So your estate plan should change with it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's very innovative. It's important, and we love innovative business models here on The Lawyer Millionaire. We've talked a lot about business strategy in previous episodes, and new ways that you can package your products and services for your clients. And I understand you're looking for attorney partners as well, which is an interesting aspect, I think. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So another innovative aspect of the Forever Estate Plan is that we're offering it in all 50 states. Traditionally, estate planning is a highly localized practice area, right? You call a local attorney, whether it's a big city, small town, whatever the case may be. It's somewhere that's someone that lives near you or works near you. Whereas with Forever Estate Plan, we're rolling it out for all 50 states. And I have no intention of taking the bar in all 50 states. I'm licensed in 3 states, and that's plenty. And just trying to keep up with the CLE in those 3 states is a big enough headache. And so we're looking for partners who are licensed in all 50, not or licensed in various states, to review the documents. We'll draft the documents. We take care of all the back office stuff. But they, in order to not get in trouble with all the bars in the country, have them review the document, say, yes, this complies with, Kentucky law or Tennessee law or whatever the case may be. And then we share a part of the fee with them. Obviously they get compensated for their time. And that's, yeah, so we're looking for partners to do that.
Yeah, yeah, great. I love how attorneys can do that and form those referral partnerships. It's a great way to improve your revenue and a great business practice for sure.
Yep. Yeah. It's also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you first.
No, I say it's also a good way to almost add an additional practice area without, a whole bunch of capital investment. If you can get smart enough or take some basic CLE courses on what's supposed to be in a will and a trust, and then review the documents and make sure they're compliant, then it's a good way to introduce a new revenue stream for your firm.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so from a high overview, can you give us a survey of what an estate plan entails? Tell us what are the components.
Yeah, so there's what I like to tell people. There's 3 basic ways you can plan your estate. You can do nothing, which I don't recommend. But the plus side there is it's free. You can use a will as the basis of your estate plan, and you can use a trust as the basis of your estate plan. And it doesn't really matter if you're, dirt poor or if you're Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or someone like that. Those are the 3 basic options. Now, obviously, the more wealth you have, the more complicated it's going to be. But at the end of the day, it's do nothing, have a will, or have a trust. And depending on which route you go, whether it's will or trust, that's going to drive the number, like the number of documents. But ultimately, the primary documents you need in an estate plan: a will, durable power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, and then the living will, which is the end of life. They often calls it an advanced directive. What happens when you're at the end of your life and life support type decisions. With a trust-based plan, the trust is the primary planning vehicle. That's where all the details are going to go. When for a married couple, I like to call it the sweetheart plan. First person passes away, everything's survivor passes away, on down to the kids. That for traditional married couple, that's 95% of what we do for them. You still have a will when you have a trust as the basis of your estate plan, simply because it's a backup plan. Very few people get to pick when they die, so we don't know exactly what you're going to own when you die. And what the will does is just picks everything up and make sure it ends up in the trust.
Mm.
And then same other durable power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, living will. With a trust, there's a few other documents that are there for support or administrative type provisions, but those are the primary ones there.
Okay, Bobby. So our show is oriented towards law firm owners and their families. What are some unique estate planning considerations that law firm owners should be mindful of that are maybe a little bit above kind of the basics of estate planning?
Yeah, and so one key thing is trust provisions. Stage withdrawals for your children. Not making sure they don't get everything when they're 18 years old. Not because 18-year-old your kids are bad people, but 18-year-olds tend not to make great decisions with money. And so having trust provisions in there where they get stage withdrawals at 25, 30, 35, and those ages can change depending on what you want to. But that allows funds for graduating college, getting married, buying a house, having kids. All tends to happen in that window. Another thing to consider, in particular for law firm owners, is that I know it's true in most states. I'm not going to make a blanket statement, but I'm fairly certain that you have to be a lawyer to own a law firm in all 50 states. And if that's not the case in your state, I apologize. Please let me know. I'd be curious to know if that's the case. And so you have to do a certain amount of succession planning. And it's particularly if you have a valuable law firm, if you have a law firm that's producing multi-million-dollar revenues, you need to have a buy-sell agreement in place. And that buy-sell agreement needs to be funded somehow. That's typically, life insurance is usually a very economical way to fund it. But that buy-sell agreement needs to be in writing, particularly if you have a partner. If you don't have a partner, if you're a solo operator, it's a good idea to at least designate someone and have a conversation with another lawyer about, hey, if something happens to me unexpectedly, I've designated you as the person to wrap up my practice, sort of thing. So that's probably the biggest pain point for law firm owners in their estate planning. Everything else is kind of can be mirrors, if you're other successful business, if you're other successful businesses. But really making sure you have a plan in place for if you suddenly become incapacitated or pass away unexpectedly.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that. We did a whole series on succession planning in previous episodes. And you're right, there are a few states that do allow non-attorney ownership now.
Okay.
Let's see, I think New Mexico, and there's another one. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, yeah, it's not as simple as just anyone can go out and start a law firm. There are a
Right.
lot of caveats. So what you're saying definitely still applies. And I think for law firm owners, if you don't have that plan in place, you're leaving so much potential money and value on the table for your family. And that's
Absolutely.
what it really comes down to. It's not just about, building your own personal wealth. It's how are you going to take care of your kids, your spouse, and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point about leaving money on the table, particularly if it's something like a personal injury practice where it's not like my practice, which is transactional, and the cases tend to be not most of them are open and closed within 1 or 2 month period. But if you have pending cases out there and they just kind of go by the wayside, you're leaving a lot of potential income on the table there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. A lot of law firm owners are interested in creating generational wealth for their families. Once you hit that seven-figure mark, what are some things you need to think about, estate planning or otherwise, to set your family up for that, quote, generational wealth? How do you go about starting that?
Yeah, I mean, what it really comes down to is determining what the goal is, right? If generational wealth is kind of a broad term, but what does that look like? Is it based in real estate? Is it based on securities, that sort of thing? And when you start saying generational wealth, you want something that's stable, a solid plan in place that's not going to be. I mean, you certainly can put it all into the stock market, but that's subject to fluctuations. And so, being a financial planner, I'm sure you're a big fan of diversification. So that's really what it comes down to, is determining what you want that to look like, and then putting those mechanisms into place. Uh, a big part of that is who's going to be your trustee. What you're essentially talking about with generational wealth is you're going to use trusts in some form
Yeah.
or fashion. Um, and so who's going to be that trustee? And for most people, most of my clients, they'll designate their children. If they have adult children, then they'll have one child that they feel is more financially astute than the other ones, or more responsible than the other ones, and that'll be the trustee, which is fine. But with generational wealth, you really got to focus on preserving it, and almost taking emotion out of it, making it a true objective trustee. And so that then you're starting to talk about corporate trustees and things along those lines, which obviously comes with an expense.
Yeah.
But if you're in order to preserve the wealth for the next generation and the one after that, you need that. You have to use a third party trustee.
Yeah.
And there runs the gamut. You can get a big bank, to do it. They tend to be on the more expensive side of things. There's smaller trust companies that are more affordable. You can even ask. Some of my clients have asked me to be their trustee, and you can do that. That will be on certainly the less expensive side of things. The other piece is, particularly when you get into 8-figure type wealth, is you got to start worrying about estate taxes, and that's a whole nother ball game as far as trusts going. You can charitable remainder trusts, grantor trust, grantor annuity trust. There's all sorts of things you can get in there, and you really have to be cognizant of it, because I don't care who you vote for, Republican, Democrat, whatever the case may be, nobody likes giving more money to the government. Nobody.
Yeah. Well, this hasn't really been an issue for a while because the estate tax exclusion has been so high.
Mhm.
Do you feel like that exclusion might come down sometime in the future? What are your thoughts on the future of estate planning or estate taxes?
Yeah, so there was a big change a couple of years ago where they got rid of the stretch IRA. And so it went from being able to stretch it out over a lifetime to when you inherit an IRA, everything has to be pulled out within 10 years. I think that trend is going to continue. And it really comes down, depends on who's in the White House and who's in Congress. When the current administration came in, and I'm frankly surprised that in between 2020 and 2022, when it was all the Democrat Senate and House, that they didn't lower the estate tax from where it is. It's close to 25 million right now for a married couple, about half that for an individual. They didn't make a bigger push for it. There was talk about it, that lowering it down to where it was like back in the 2010 era, before the current kind of structure was in place.
Yeah.
But I think it's just it's going to happen. The amount of money that is sitting in IRAs, 401ks, all that sort of stuff we're in the middle of the greatest wealth transfer in history, as the baby
Yeah.
boomers start passing away, passing it down to Gen X and millennials and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of money changing hands, and I don't see the politicians letting that go without taking another pound of flesh out of it.
Yeah, well, it seems like an easy target. I mean, we know our government is massively in debt. So, the easier thing than raising income taxes, which everyone would just hate, of course,
Yeah.
would be like, hey, let's raise the estate tax. This is stuff that people maybe are not, relying on so much. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in that arena.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I mean, I'm not going to say I wouldn't be happy about it, but I wouldn't be that upset about it either, because it's just. I mean, people are coming back to do more estate planning and tax planning and things like that, and so uh, it's a double-edged sword there, I'd say.
Right, right, for sure. Well, Bobby, in your experience working with people, I'm curious, are there some major or common mistakes that you often see in estate plans before they kind of engage with someone like you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a mistake. There's one very common misconception out there, and that's that a will prevents you from going through probate, and
Mm,
that's just not the case. It varies by state. Some states you can get rid of or virtually opt out of the probate process if your documents are drafted correctly, but a will by itself does not get you out of the probate process. You have to use a trust to do that. Another mistake, or a mistake I've seen, is estate plans that really don't take incapacity into account. The good news
Uh,
is we're living longer. The bad news is we're living longer. And so the likelihood that you or I or anyone's going to spend some amount of time in an assisted living facility just increases every day we get older. And there's some powerful asset protection strategies we can put in place if you do it ahead of time.
mhm.
You know, one of those that situation where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound to cure. Particularly for a married couple, there's some strategies we can use that that when the first person passes away, if the survivor is in a position where it looks like there, dementia's on the horizon or they have to go into a nursing home, there's some strategies we can use that will protect a significant amount of their assets. And if you're not talking to an attorney who's familiar with those, or kind of in deep in the estate planning world, then you're going to be missing out on those opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. Thinking about those long-term care expenses and how those can eat into your assets. There's various ways to protect, the trusts, which I know you're very familiar with, and I think that's a very good option to explore. Um, there are insurance policies, but they're not as generous as they used to be. I think insurance companies realized that they were losing money on those.
I've heard of somewhere it's a combination of life insurance slash long-term care
Yeah,
insurance, where I mean, long-term care insurance used to be like car insurance. If you didn't use it, it goes away, right? You don't get the money back for car insurance if you don't have an accident. But I think you're probably more familiar with that than I am, but there's some hybrid policies out there that, if you have long-term care insurance and you end up not using it, there's still some cash value or death benefit when you pass away.
yeah, that can definitely be a good option to explore. Well, Bobby, it's been great chatting with you about all these different topics, and our time has just kind of flown by here. A lot of great things for our listeners to think about as it relates to their own planning and thinking about the future. Before we go, I want to ask you one more question, something we ask all our guests. For you, what is your millionaire mission? And what I mean by that is, what are your big goals for yourself and for your family that motivate and inspire you?
And it really, this is going to sound uh, cliche, but really my goal is to make lives better. And I really feel like by helping people with their estate plan, uh, even in my business, the team members I have, I want their lives to be better by working with me. And I want to make my kids' lives better. I want to make my wife's lives better. And if I never do that, ultimately, that will make my life better too. And so that's really what I want to do, or how I see, getting from where I am today to where I want my family to be, 10, 15, 20 years from now is by helping people.
Yeah.
And you're really not even taking money into consideration, but if after working with me or coming and talk to me, people feel better. They have peace of mind. They're more calm. They're more confident in their future. If I can help people do that, then I will be very satisfied with where I am in life.
Yeah, very cool. It's always
Yeah,
great to see when you can make a positive impact on people's actual lives in real terms.
yeah, it's great. It's a funny it's a great feeling. And I wouldn't say I don't do it solely for the money, but it's certainly makes it worthwhile.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Bobby, would you please share with our listeners how they can learn more about you, where they can go to find out more about you and the work you do?
Yeah. You can go to foreverestateplan.com, is the website. There's plenty of information there, contact information, phone number, all that sort of stuff. You can shoot me an email, Bobby at jandspllc.com. That's J and then and spell out. And yeah, shoot me an email. I'm a big fan of mixing cocktails and cooking food and things along those lines. So if you want to swap recipes, I'd love to do that. I have a almost world famous margarita recipe that I can share with you, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Bobby, and sharing your great insights with us.
I appreciate it, Darren. Have a great day.
Absolutely. And now to our listeners, I want to thank you so much for joining us today as well. If today's discussion has resonated with you and you're ready to start building your own personal financial legacy, let's have a conversation. I'm here to help you turn your business success into extraordinary, lasting wealth. Visit thelawyermillionaire.com to book a call with me, Darren Wurz, and let's work together to turn your aspirations into lasting achievements. Lastly, I encourage you to subscribe to the Lawyer Millionaire Podcast if you haven't already. Leave us a review and share your thoughts about today's episode or what you'd like to hear in future discussions. Until next time, stay focused, stay driven, and let's all keep aiming for that coveted title. Not just lawyer, but lawyer millionaire and maybe multi-millionaire. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to our next discussion together.